This is why the 25th Amendment was written. It was ratified in 1967, authorizing the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to remove the president from power when and if that president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The 25th Amendment was written for the day when the Democratic leader of the United States Senate could credibly say, quote, "The president is ranting like an unhinged madman," as he said yesterday.
Congress just dropped a political bomb on Donald Trump, and he is losing his mind over it. 50 members of Congress are now moving to force the 25th Amendment process, and Republicans are scrambling because they cannot explain away what we are watching every single day. And here is the thing. This was not written for any ordinary moment. The 25th Amendment was ratified in 1967 for exactly this. It was written for the day when a sitting senator, a Democratic leader of the United States Senate, would look at the president and say, "On the record, the president is ranting like an unhinged madman." It was written for the day a former Republican congressman who voted for that president 3 times would declare to the world, "He has gone insane." That is not a talking point. That is the reality that Republicans in Congress are being forced to confront right now. And none of them want to say it out loud. But the clock is ticking, Donald Trump is spiraling, and what Lawrence O'Donnell laid out is the clearest diagnosis of what we are actually dealing with. Watch this.
And this weekend, not surprisingly, Donald Trump's vice president failed to reach an agreement with Iran on anything. It would have been considered a huge victory for J.D. Vance to achieve even half of what John Kerry and our next guest, Under Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, achieved in their negotiations with Iran. And where was Donald Trump during the crucial moments of this weekend's negotiations with Iran? In another sign that Donald Trump is mentally ill, he was at an ultimate fighting festival in Miami because Donald Trump doesn't even know how to fake being presidential in time of war or ever. And Donald Trump doesn't know how to fake at least appearing to be sane.
So, the President of the United States pulled us into a war on behalf of Israel to benefit Wall Street insiders who are cashing in while American families pay for it. And while that war is raging, while Americans and innocent civilians are dying, he is at a birthday party. Let that sink in. That is not just bad optics. That is malignant narcissism operating in real time from the Oval Office. That character trait alone is disqualifying. Donald Trump does not care about you. He does not care about your family. He does not care about the troops he sent into harm's way. And I think even some MAGA supporters are finally starting to feel that. And this is the part that should worry everyone. This is not a president who is pretending to focus on the war and failing. He is not even pretending. His brain is simply not there. And if you think that is a partisan exaggeration, wait until you hear what Marjorie Taylor Greene said about it. But first, if this channel is the place where you come to hear somebody actually say it, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like. It genuinely helps us keep going. Now, watch this.
More attention, where the president said a whole civilization will die tonight. And former Congresswoman Greene, you posted about that after the president had made that threat. He went off on Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, several people who have been pretty big champions of his in the past. And he also went after you. You responded to that post about a whole civilization will die with, in all caps, 25th Amendment and 3 exclamation points. Do you really think that the president should be removed from office?
I think we have to truly question the mental stability of any president that threatens to wipe out an entire civilization of people. That would include all the innocent people in that country that have nothing to do with the war, especially after President Trump said this was about freeing the Iranian people from the Iranian regime. So for him to call to wipe out an entire civilization of people, it is absolutely wrong. But,
Not mentally stable? You heard that right. That is the floor of the diagnosis when it comes to Donald Trump. And the floor is already through the basement. Do not get me wrong. Doctors have gone on record. Not anonymous sources. Not political opponents. Actual physicians have stated publicly that Donald Trump shows signs consistent with cognitive decline. That is a verifiable fact. And yet the mainstream media has spent the better part of this administration treating every Trump meltdown the way you treat a slightly awkward uncle at Thanksgiving. You notice it, you wince, and then you change the subject. And this is where it gets wild. The same media apparatus that ran wall-to-wall coverage every time Joe Biden stumbled on a word, every time he mentioned ice cream or seemed tired on a debate stage, that same machine goes almost completely quiet when Donald Trump threatens nuclear destruction against 90 million people. Think about that contrast for a second, because it is genuinely staggering. Biden would talk about Cracker Jacks costing a nickel when he was a kid. The headline was, "Is Biden losing it?" Trump threatens to wipe out an entire civilization. The coverage is, "Let us hear both sides." Those are not two versions of the same concern. Those are two completely different categories of public behavior, and the media's refusal to treat them that way is one of the great institutional failures of this political moment. He tried to pass off a photo of himself dressed as Jesus as a doctor's portrait. He is scheduling his war crime threats on social media, timing them out like a content calendar. He is threatening to obliterate civilian infrastructure, power plants, bridges, schools, in a country he claimed just weeks ago he was trying to free. He is flip-flopping on the Strait of Hormuz within the same news cycle. And somehow, in too many newsrooms, that is just another Tuesday. So here is where we are, and here is why what Jamie Raskin is doing right now actually matters. Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, introduced a bill this week with 50 Democratic co-sponsors. The legislation would establish what is called a Commission on Presidential Capacity to discharge the powers and duties of office. That is the body that Section 4 of the 25th Amendment explicitly authorizes Congress to create, and Congress has never actually created it. In 59 years since that amendment was ratified, nobody bothered to set it up. Raskin is setting it up now. Here is what the commission would actually do. It would be composed of 17 members, 8 physicians, 4 of whom must be psychiatrists, plus 8 retired high-ranking executive branch officials, former presidents, attorneys general, secretaries of state. Those 16 members choose the 17th, who chairs the body. In an emergency, Congress could pass a concurrent resolution directing this commission to examine the president within 72 hours and report its findings. If the commission and the vice president agree that the president is incapacitated, the vice president immediately assumes the role of acting president. Now, to be fair, the realistic path here is not easy. Republicans control the House. This bill does not come to the floor unless they allow it, and Trump could simply veto it, even if it somehow passed. Raskin himself has said on private caucus calls that impeachment might actually be the stronger path, precisely because impeachment does not require J.D. Vance to agree to anything.
Most of you have seen this profane and perverse social media post. I am not going to read it, as is customary for such exhibits introduced on TV news programs, because it is pure warmongering, filthy madness. I will not use it as an opportunity for audiences to get to hear another anchorman using the dirty word. I will not read Donald Trump's poison aloud because it is beneath my dignity, and that's not a phrase I use very often. And we should all be deeply concerned about living in a country where an anchorman's dignity, indeed the dignity of anyone anywhere in the country on any television show, is much, much higher than the dignity of the depraved President of the United States. But that is where we are tonight.
Under the 25th Amendment, you need the vice president. Under impeachment, you do not. But here is what that actually tells you. This move by Raskin is not primarily a legislative strategy. It is a pressure campaign. It is a way of forcing the conversation into the open, forcing Republicans to either defend the indefensible or stay silent while the record builds. And that silence is the story. Because here is the pattern we are watching. 4 psychiatrists wrote a formal letter to Congress this week. They warned that Trump's behavior, quote, has crossed a threshold that demands the immediate and bipartisan attention of Congress. They described what forensic mental health experts across dozens of independent assessments have identified as the dark triad of personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. That is not a blogger. That is not a political opponent. Those are credentialed mental health professionals writing to the United States Congress in formal correspondence. And the White House response, quote, Lightweight Jamie Raskin is a stupid person's idea of a smart person. That was the official statement from a White House spokesperson. Translation, we have nothing. We have no rebuttal to the substance. So we are going to try to embarrass the man asking the question. Public trust in Donald Trump's ability to meet the duties of his office has dropped to unprecedented lows. That is not my framing. That is Jamie Raskin's direct language, and it is backed by the numbers. And I think at a time when people hate politics more than ever before, the most powerful message Democrats can run on heading into the midterms is exactly this. The president is in cognitive decline. His cabinet knows it. His party knows it. The media is covering it up, and Congress has let you down by doing nothing about it. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the documented, sourced, on-the-record situation we are living through. The difference between this and a conspiracy theory is that this one has 50 co-sponsors, a formal bill with actual legal text, and a chorus of voices that now includes Marjorie Taylor Greene, Anthony Scaramucci, and multiple Republican lawmakers who simply cannot defend what they are watching anymore. And here is the thing. You do not need to watch Trump deteriorate in real time every single day to understand that something is badly wrong. You just need to know that the people closest to him, the people who work in that building, the people who owe their careers to him, are either quitting, going quiet, or posting about the 25th Amendment on Easter Sunday. When that is what you are seeing, the only rational response is to ask, what do they know that we do not? That is the question Congress needs to answer. That is the question Raskin is trying to force them to answer. And Republicans are scrambling right now because they do not have a good one.
Now,
are you going to be able to message all of this, Senator, before the midterm elections? I mean, you've got a message that national security is a priority. You've also got to message your affordability calls in the face of oil prices that are up 50% in the last month.
Well, they're still lower than they were under President Biden, so that's good news. Number one, yes, affordability will be solved. Number two, the gas prices are coming down. Number three, we can thank President Trump and Republicans for doing both.
Senator, great to see you this morning.
Biden. Are we seriously still doing this? Because Tim Scott just told you with a straight face that gas prices are lower than they were under Biden, and I need you to understand that this is a lie you can verify yourself right now, today, with a 5-second search. Both crude oil per barrel and the price you pay at the pump were lower when Joe Biden left office than they are at this moment. That is a fact. So what changed? We started an unnecessary war on behalf of Israel. That is the only variable. That is what changed. And Tim Scott knows it. Here's the thing about Republican messaging on the economy right now. They promised you they would fix inflation. It is going up. They promised you the cost of living would come down. It has exploded. Gas is now averaging over $4 a gallon nationally, up more than $1 since this war began. And Trump himself just told Fox News that gas prices could be the same or maybe a little bit higher by the midterms. He said that. On camera, the man who built his entire second campaign on energy costs finally admitted that relief is not coming. And this is key. Donald Trump argued throughout the campaign that if you lower the cost of energy, everything else gets cheaper. Sure, that has some logic to it, though economists would tell you the relationship is not nearly as direct as he claimed. But the reverse is absolutely true, and it is much more powerful. When you drive energy costs up, everything follows. Food, transport, manufacturing, distribution, all of it. And that is exactly what this war has done to your wallet. Republicans have no answer for that. So they talk about Biden.
Good news is we're the leading producer of oil in the world. We're exporting more than we're importing. We're not standing in lines. That overall wages have been growing faster than inflation under this president. Here it is. It's going to be tax day very soon, and Americans are going to get an extra $1,000 or $1,500 rebate as well. So I'm sorry the gas prices are going up, but help is on its way. And your national security, yes, is even more important than your pocketbook.
Now, here is where the national security argument completely falls apart, and I want you to hold on to this, because it is the clearest sign yet of just how politically exposed this administration is. Republicans have been telling you that this war is about protecting the homeland. That is the pitch. National security comes first. And then Republican Mike Lawler, right after Trump started bombing Iran, turned around and demanded that Democrats fund the Department of Homeland Security, saying there was never a more important time to protect the homeland. Read that again slowly. The congressman whose party started the war is telling Democrats to pay for the security consequences of that war. That is a confession, not an argument. And here is what the numbers actually say. Trump's job approval sits at 39% in the polling average right now. 31% approve of how he is handling the economy. That is his lowest mark on the economy, full stop, across both terms. 6 out of 10 Americans disapprove of this war. 60% of Americans who say gas prices are going up also say Trump deserves the most blame for it. Not Iran, not oil companies. Trump. That is what the public has concluded. Because this is the part that should worry everyone on the Republican side of the aisle. Trump himself went on Fox News this past Sunday and admitted gas prices might stay the same or go higher before the midterms. He said that the president who promised you cheap gas, who told you energy costs were the key to everything, just told the country on camera that he does not expect relief. And somehow Republicans are still trying to sell this as a win. Now here is where it gets genuinely dangerous, not just politically, but for all of us. Trump was telling the world last week that the United States barely needs the Strait of Hormuz at all. He said we don't need it. Other countries should protect it themselves. And then, days later, he was threatening to rain fire down on Iran if they didn't open that same strait. He went from, we don't need it, to civilizations will die if you don't hand it over, within the same week. That is not negotiating leverage. That is a man who cannot keep a consistent position because he is not operating from strategy. He is operating from whatever emotion hit him when he opened his phone that morning. And that is the real national security crisis here. Not Iran's nuclear program, not the Strait of Hormuz, not the Israeli conflict. It is that the person with the nuclear codes is improvising foreign policy in real time, posting war crime threats on Easter Sunday between church services, and the cabinet is sitting there watching it happen. Marjorie Taylor Greene called it evil. Anthony Scaramucci, who worked in that White House for 11 days and knows how it runs, said the founders designed the 25th Amendment precisely for this moment. 4 psychiatrists wrote to Congress in formal correspondence and warned that this behavior has crossed a threshold. More than 85 members of Congress, Democrats, and some figures from the president's own coalition have now called for removal or impeachment. Here is where we are. The ceasefire bought 2 weeks. The peace talks in Pakistan produced nothing. The Navy has now enacted a blockade of Iranian ports. And Trump told Fox he does not expect gas prices to fall before November. Every step of the way. If you are watching because you want someone to actually say what is happening, subscribe, drop a like, share this with someone who needs to hear it. We will see you next time.